Welcome, everyone, to the Earth Woman Gathering podcast. You might tell that the banner has changed and the branding has changed. That is because I'm finally where I need to be. All these years, we started out with what did we start out with? I can't remember what the name of it was. And then it was the Ascension Portal community gathering, and now we're where we need to be, Earth Woman, because it describes everything that I do. So I'm your host, Patricia Walls, and this is a space that I created for deeper conversations, and it's a space where spirituality, higher awareness, multidimensional understanding, healing, consciousness, and human evolution can be explored honestly, openly, no filters. I don't believe in filters. And so the podcast is here just for those who know that they know what they know and don't want to be told that they don't know what they know. So through these conversations, we explore topics such as consciousness expansion, energetic healing, light language, of course, spiritual awakening, multidimensional experiences, earth wisdom, of course, cosmic awareness, and the deeper mysteries of existence. And every once in a while, we might talk about science. We might talk about UFOs. We might talk about health and healing in the traditional sense. And so there's no limit. It's about sharing. It's about assisting you in remembering who you are and also helping you to get there, to throw off all of those programs and beliefs that have been holding you back. So wherever you're joining me from today, take a breath, release, settle in, and just allow yourself to be fully present for what resonates with you in this moment. Today's guest is Tina-nomad. Tina is a subconscious biohacker, reprogramming specialist, an amplifier and actualizer of human potential. She draws on more than 15 years of experience and nearly 9,000 client sessions. She helps individuals overcome subconscious limitations and reconnect with who they truly are beneath the childhood conditioning and the trauma. Her work combines subconscious reprogramming and biohacking, which is something that she termed clinical hypnotherapy, NLP, inner mind sourcing, neuroscience, quantum physics, and consciousness exploration. She does all that to create rapid and lasting transformation. With an approximately 96% success rate between 1 and 6 sessions for most people and issues, and a 100% success rate with elite and professional athletes. tina-nomad helps people unlock greater levels of peace, fulfillment, performance, and human potential. So I'm going to bring her on. Thank you for your patience with this. And here she is.
Patricia, good to see you again. It's been
Hi,
so
Tina. It's
it's
been
not
a
bad.
long time, hasn't it?
I know.
Like 24 hours, maybe, something
I,
like that.
not even that. We went pretty late last night. But I love the new background there. That's beautiful. Your logo and your colors are matching. Gorgeous. I just love it.
Thanks. Well, listen, can you get us started? I know
Yes,
it's rude, but I have a call that I have to absolutely take,
you got
some
it. I will get you
medical
started.
things. So please get us started, and I will be right.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for having me. And I just want to thank you for so much for spending your valuable time to listen and maybe gain some new awareness with me today. Today is all about you and the powerful shifts you're about to make. And I'm genuinely excited to share with you what I'm sharing with you today because what we're talking about today completely transformed my life, my happiness, my business, my relationships, and ultimately how I experience myself on a daily basis. So many people stay stuck not because they don't want to change and not because they're not trying hard, but because they don't even know where the real block is coming from, nor how to go about changing it if they do. And that's why today is so important because we're not just talking about motivation or strategies or willpower. We're going underneath all of that right into the subconscious where real transformation begins. And for a group like this, I think it's especially important because many of you have already done more personal development and spiritual tools than most people do in an entire lifetime. So you've gone to the events, you've hired the coaches, you've learned to taken the classes, you've had the breakthroughs, you've gained awareness on many levels. Yet for many people, certain patterns still persist. The stress, the anxiety, overthinking, procrastination, self-sabotage, confidence issues, money patterns, relationship patterns, the feeling of knowing exactly what you should do and still not consistently doing it. So today we're going to talk about why this happens and more importantly, what to do about it. So I'll just let me see if I have the screen sharing capability here. And it looks like I might. Give me 1 second. And I will pull this up. Okay. 1 second. All right. Okay. Let's see if we can see my screen here. All right. Okay, hopefully I am sharing. So this is just a little bit about me. And a kind of a little bit about what I do. So at this point, as she already explained to you, I've done approximately 9,000 sessions, approximately 96 percentile success rate between 1 and 6 sessions, and 100% with pro and elite and pro athletes. And for example, some of I'll give you some more examples later, but this happens to be one that's up here on the screen. Dermontti Dawson, an NFL Hall of Famer, who actually came to me after he was playing. Most of the athletes I work with, it's while they're playing, because he goes around the country speaking to NFL, football players. And he had a lot of anxiety and fear around public speaking and anxiety in general. So we did some work together and, incredibly, and you may not be able to read the letter, but basically I'm trying to read it myself. But he says, to be honest, I didn't even expect the results to happen as fast as they did. After just one session, I felt a huge shift. My anxiety was something that had been holding me back for a long time, but Tina's approach was different from anything I've ever had. Her inner mind sourcing techniques and got to the root of the issue, and I could feel the difference immediately. So he says, it's like something unlocked something in my mind that was keeping me stuck, which is pretty cool. And then he goes on to say that if I'd had this during my NFL career, then that would have been a game changer. So that's a pretty cool testimonial to have. And I'll stop the share there. I just wanted to share that real quick. And 1 second here. I'm pulling up my so as Patricia mentioned, I'm a subconscious biohacker and optimizer, and I coined the term subconscious biohacking because I truly believe the subconscious mind is the ultimate biohack. It controls the mind and the body, and in my opinion and with the work I do, it's the gateway to everything else. Higher self, universal intelligence, source, all of it comes through it. It's all connected, which is pretty cool. So I get to work with people's supercomputers that connect them to the greater field every day, which I just love. And what I do is to help people identify, remove, and upgrade the subconscious programming that's limiting their results and preventing them from tapping into their full potential. My mission is simple, and Patricia mentioned it. I'm an amplifier and actualizer of human potential, and here to be part of the evolution of the human species by helping people become more of who they truly are underneath all the conditioning and programming and connect and identify with themselves at a soul level. Because that's a game changer. For me, that's my ultimate purpose to help people identify with themselves as a soul having a human experience versus just polishing up the bundle of programming, that ego identity that comes from our life experiences. So I combine awareness and perspective shifts along with what I do. And then And Patricia, if you'd like, I can go ahead and just share with some of those examples that I shared yesterday. I remember you asked me about some of the results. So let me just share that once more here.
Yeah, because this is the different. I mean, there's two people on here, but that were from yesterday, but this is a different group, so they need it.
Okay.
Share
All
away.
right. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. So let me see here. So a couple of examples of what some of these shifts look like. And here's a few of the people. We just talked about Dermonti Dawson. I'll just name a couple on here. So examples of what people would come to me for. Really, the realm is anything. Fears, phobias, anxieties, addictions, weight loss, confidence issues, trauma, focus, motivation, drive, stress, anxiety, panic attacks. I mean, you name it. And the results I have are generally about between 1 and 6 sessions for most people in the general population, and then the elite and pro athletes just between 1 and 2 sessions. Couple of examples of some of these types of issues. We've got Samuel Oforti here. He is a professional footballer or soccer player for the Americans. And when he contacted me, he was playing for an Eastern European team professionally. And he was having problems with anger because the players there and the people in the actual community there would learn how to push his buttons by saying all kinds of really rude racial comments to him while he was playing. Call him all kinds of horrible things. Him, his mother, everything, just racist stuff. And he would just fly off the handle. And in a game like that, now you're getting yellow cards, you're getting thrown out of the game, and obviously it's impacting his level of play. So he came to me, we broke the associations, removed any limiting programming, and after 1 session, he came back and he says, "You know what? Everybody's still the same, but it's actually kind of funny now." He's like, "The comments are just funny. It's comical. It doesn't even affect me. It's like water off a duck's back." And so he's just in the flow, just playing away. They don't change, but his response changed completely. Another one here, Austin Albrecht, a professional hockey player, his coach sought me out. His coach came to me because he's like, this is one of my best players. Now he's freezing on the ice. He's not anticipating the moves. And I was like, well, what does he say when you ask him? And he's like, oh, no, I don't know, man, coach. He's like, I'm just, I'm a shitty player and I'm playing shitty. And so I said, well, tell me what's happened with Austin this past year. And he's like, well, he broke his hand while he was, while he was playing, and then he played with the broken hand, and he broke it again. Oh, and then he got a 100-mile-an-hour puck to the face and shattered all his facial bones. And I'm like, okay. So without even meeting the guy, I already know that his subconscious is screaming at him, danger, danger, get off the ice. Every time that he's on there, he's trying to override it with what he knows he can do because the mind perceives things like that, injuries and accidents and all of those kinds of things, as trauma. And once it's perceived as trauma, now it's trying to protect. So I talked to Austin and I found out that furthermore, his confidence was shot, not because of the injuries, but because he'd been traded around a bunch at COVID and he'd lost his confidence as a player. And when I talked to him, he saw only three future options for himself: that he was going to get benched, that he was going to get traded down, or he was done. That was it. That was what was his future look like. And so I did 1 session with him, a full on, reprogram session. By the end of the first session, he says, "I'm back, baby." And he just had this big smile on his face. And then he was in the middle of the playoffs. So we did one more quick little NLP type of session. And we hit the ground running. He only had like 40 minutes and kept looking at his clock through the whole thing. And we just did an NLP just to really align him on the neurological levels and hemispheres of his brain for his new identity as like a rock star player. He went out and scored three goals in that game, just blew it away. His dad was congratulating him and being his old self again. But much to the coach's chagrin, he got traded up. And so he left the team anyways. But yeah, not the way the coach would have. And I'll get to the other one later, but I just wanted to share there a couple of those examples there. And well, let me see where I was kind of going with that. My notes here. Okay. So the reason I do what I do is, and after working with all these different kinds of modalities, I want to do something that works consistently with all kinds of people. And I know a lot of people prefer to, like, I just want to work with spiritual people, or I just, whatever it is. For me, I'm highly, highly, highly focused on results. That's what does it for me. So if my techniques are not giving replicable results for the majority of all people, spiritual people, non-spiritual people, professional athletes, entrepreneurs, the stay-at-home mom, the students, people with lots of awareness, people with no awareness, the common denominator in all those people is that it's the subconscious. They've all got a subconscious. Everyone's got one. And then, of course, as we just talked about, it's also the gateway to all those other realms, parallel realities and quantum fields and universal intelligence and all of those things. But even if they're not spiritual, they know they can admit that they have a subconscious, so it works just fine. So let's just talk for a moment about why people stay stuck and the negative habits, emotional reactions, self-sabotage, overthinking, anxiety, recurring patterns that just keep happening. And for many people, it's not that they lack desire or intelligence or that they're not trying. It's because their subconscious has already been programmed. Research suggests that approximately 95% of our daily thoughts, feelings, actions, habits, responses are all subconscious. And so just think about that for a moment. 95%. That's the subconscious, the programming influences. It influences how much money you believe you deserve, how confident you feel, how safe success feels, how safe failure or comfort zone feels, how worthy you feel, how much stress you experience, how you perform under pressure, how you show up in relationships, what opportunities you pursue or avoid, whether you procrastinate or self-sabotage, whether you trust yourself, and whether you step into your full potential. Because it's actually impossible to step into your full potential if you have limiting old programming that's incongruent with that full potential. And most importantly, in my opinion, whether you fully accept and appreciate and love yourself in every single moment, especially the ones where you just mess it up really bad. Most people are trying to change those outcomes though without ever changing the programming creating them, which is always a band-aid approach. To change the results, the underlying programming must be changed. And so I'll just give you a brief little bit of background about how that happens. So for some of you, you may already know, but the subconscious, I compare it to kind of like a computer. And this, like any computer, it has to be programmed. And so your computer, everyone's computer, gets programmed by default between the ages of 0 and 11. They're taking in anything from the environment, from authority figures, parents, teachers, peer groups, maybe something in high intensity on TV, repetition, and the belief system goes in. What I believe about myself, whether I'm stupid or good enough or not good enough, or, people are this, men are this, women are this, different cultures are this. All of these belief systems come in without the child even thinking about it. And then they run on that belief system for the rest of their lives. Though, as an adult, you can get new programming automatically, but usually through traumatic experiences. High emotion and traumatic events will instill new programming. So, because most people don't understand that this is a reprogrammable piece of technology, like any other piece of technology, everyone's walking around on whatever happened to them, not even a bad childhood, but however they perceived what was going on around them as a child and the labels they attached to that between the ages of 0 and 11 and traumatic events. That's what their entire operating system is. That means their beliefs are coming from there, which means their thoughts, their feelings, their actions, their responses, and their results all come from just that limited programming, which I kind of compare it to like a poorly functioning robot that's, just completely not optimized. But that just gives you a little bit of a background. So I just wanted to go into that, Patricia, while you were away, give everybody a little bit of background there.
We're awake, we're listening. Um, so yeah, are you ready for a question?
If you like, I mean, either way, yeah, yeah,
I'm prepared this time.
that's
So
good.
you you talk about biohacking the mind. I mean, that's part of your brand and your label. And um, what do you think is the biggest subconscious program that humanity's currently running right now?
Well, I mean, that's a big question. I mean, there's a lot of collective programs that we're running, a lot of them. There's individual programs that we're running, there's collective ones, there's realities that people buy into simultaneously. The biggest one, I don't know that I've ever been asked that question. Um, I mean, I suppose the biggest one is believing that we are the limited versions of ourselves that most people see us as. Whatever, like for example, and that can kind of go out in different approaches. For example, that I am the sum of who I am, my identity is pretty much the sum of this ego personality that's a construct of programming that came from my childhood and traumatic experiences. Well, not mine, because I've been upgrading it. But for most people, then they think that that's all they are. They've forgotten who they are at the soul level. And I think, to me, that's the underlying core, and of what the point of everything is to remember who we are at that soul level, and that we came here having a soul, having a human experience, and to remember that. And to remember that who we are as the human species right now is actually not even halfway actualized. We have not tapped into the minutest part of our capabilities, just even as a human species. A lot of people like, oh, well, I'd like to be another species or another whatever. I don't think you do. We haven't figured out what we're capable of as this human species because we've kind of got rooted into this physical form. But we have so many layers of that, so many that we're supposed to be tapping into, and we are going there. But I truly think the next stage of evolution really comes down to us remembering who we are at that core soul essence level, and that we're here having that experience. And once you do, something shifts, because you can't remember who you are as this powerful soul that's, love and peace and joy and, all of these characteristics. And it's so, so powerful. And then anxiety can't stand up under that. Depression can't stand up under that. Lack of confidence can't stand up under that. Not when you're identifying from that state, and not just a state, that identity. And so everything else collapses. And that's kind of, you know, I guess, I shared with you before about a year and a half ago. I've been on this journey for a few years now with the soul aspect as kind of a goal for myself, starting to recognize, first differentiating, I started to read Eckhart Tolle's the Awakening to Your Life's Purpose, and starting to really see the difference between the ego identity kind of construct that I'm talking about, that's programming, versus the soul essence, and starting to differentiate it from it. And I'm like, wow, I can see it. And I'd already had references and altered states and things of myself as, as other things than this human form. And so starting to really get a grasp on that. And then about a year and a half ago, I went to my mentor and I said, I have this idea. I said, what if, and usually when people come to me, or when I work in groups or with individuals, I'm working on specific issues. So maybe they come to me for anxiety or depression or whatever it is. I said, well, what if we treat the issue, instead of anxiety or depression or something, how about the issue is the disconnect with soul essence and human form? What if that's the issue? And we treat it like any other issue. We're breaking the old associations, pulling out the limiting programming that's disconnecting, removing the blinders from the eyes, and really treating that as a core issue. And because the techniques we use are just so, so successful. And he's like, well, you're kind of talking about waking people up. And I said, well, first off, now's the time to wake up. Now's the time of all times. Like, this is the most important time that there is on this planet, at least in our recorded history. And I said, second off, I mean, this isn't something you're going to do for, someone who comes to me for a phobia of flying, for example, but for the people who are ready, absolutely. And I said, I'm the guinea pig. Let's do this. And so that started a whole journey over the past year and a half of steadily working my subconscious and the higher self and, other realms, and just, working at removing, and a lot of it's belief systems. Belief systems, believing that we're limited beings, believing that we're not capable of physically regenerating, believing all of these things. These belief systems are rooted in us, genetically passed down through all time, that this is what all we're capable of. And so you have to really systematically go at that. But I will tell you, at this point, after doing all of that and everything else I was focused on, spending lots of time in nature at the same time, the shift is real. is actually real, and it's one of the most powerful things. And so now that's really kind of where I'm focused at. I don't know if I answered your question there, Patricia, but I may have gotten a little
Yeah.
off track with it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, we have so much in common. It's like squirrel. While you were talking, I was thinking about all the different countries and, not just countries, but cities. You said, cities within this country and this country. I was thinking about all the places that you've traveled. And I mean, outside of language and culture, isn't it just about all the same? I mean, we're all dealing with the same thing, no matter where we are on the planet or in the
Yeah.
multiverse.
Yeah.
We're all dealing with the same issues. And for me, the issue is trying to remember who we are and getting back to that word that, has been a big one for me, sovereignty, getting back to
Mm.
our realizing our sovereign selves, and
Hmm.
throwing off all of those programs, that we've been bombarded with and from forever. And like you said, I mean, like you've said maybe in the past, the programs aren't just from the life that we've lived in this physical body. The programs are coming from all of our existences.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
how are you? I know how you're working with that, but will you tell our guest here how you're working to help people overcome that? I mean, you've got a million tools, so
Sure, sure. Yeah, and so yeah, let's get into that. And and I'll just briefly mention awareness. And this is kind of where people kind of get stuck, is that they learn all these tools, they go to the classes, they take the classes, they study all these different things and get these higher levels of awareness. But the problem is that awareness most often isn't enough. If awareness alone created lasting change, then everyone who attended personal development and spiritual classes and techniques would leave completely transformed and stay that way. But that's not what happens. Awareness tells you what you need to change. Awareness helps you identify the limiting belief, the pattern, and the issue. But awareness by itself doesn't necessarily change the programming creating it. So and that's why it's important to take something and do something concrete with it, with that awareness. So to reprogram the subconscious, and in order to get tangible results, and we have to be really, really, really thorough. So why do some people get results from subconscious work and others don't? Why do some people, do a lot of people do all kinds of therapy, subconscious work, and they'll tell me, "Oh, well, I've already done this before. I've worked with the subconscious. I've done hypnotherapy, and it's still stuck." So, many people have done the healing work and they've done coaching and they still have the issue. So after 9,000, close to 9,000 sessions at this point, I believe the answer really does come down to one thing: it's thoroughness. To reprogram the subconscious, and in order to get tangible results replicably, we have to be extremely thorough. That means breaking all the old associations, which means when you say break the associations, the subconscious is an association making mechanism. So it's creating associations that link us to emotions. So, for example, if something traumatic happens, now any similar, kind of like the story I just told with Austin on the ice. Well, so he had several accidents on the ice. Now every time he's getting on the ice, his mind is triggering him back to that same thing, whether he wants to or not. And so if you don't clear the associations and bring people back down to a neutral on any negative emotion, whether it's fears, whether it's other negative emotions, whether it's traumas that they still have all these negative feelings about. So first off, I go after the associations and we neutralize them. So you neutralize this, and you can do that in, probably about 20 minutes. And so once you and you're what you're doing is you're bringing in the origin of whatever the issue was, and then all the reinforcing factors, whether that's from this life, whether it's from past or future or parallel lives, wherever it's coming from, and then bringing in all the emotions and the thought patterns that come from it, and then you're unraveling it. And it works because the person that at the beginning of the session couldn't even talk about the trauma or like the phobia thing that they're afraid of. But then 20 minutes later inside the session, now you say, okay, now think about it. Tell me how you feel. And I don't stop until they're at a neutral level. And so once they're neutral, then you can keep going. Now you start to remove the limiting programming and the beliefs, but you have to go after every level: the conscious, the subconscious, the DNA, the RNA, the cellular memory, the nervous system, the neurological levels, genetics, epigenetics. Bring in the higher self, universal intelligence, the quantum field, and any other level, even the Akashic records I address in every single session. So that's the next level of thoroughness, all of those things. And then another really important part that a lot of, I would say a lot is a reason that a lot of people aren't having the shifts that they want is because there's internal resistance that they may not even be aware of. And so if that internal resistance is not cleared, then that's going to hold on to it for them. And so what happens is sometimes there's parts of us that get stunted in growth. And so, and they get stunted maybe as a 5-year old, and they start to take on a role. And they think by doing this and causing us to, like, have panic in public or whatever it is, that it's keeping us safe, it's keeping us on guard, whatever it is. But those parts, they're out of date. So you have to grow them up and bring them to the person's level of awareness in order to shift it. Because if they're still holding on and think they're still doing something positive for the person, then that issue will persist. And so only then, after doing all of those levels and more than I've mentioned, and then getting rid of all that and then checking repeatedly, can the person think about anything? Does the subconscious and the higher self agree that there's no of those limiting beliefs still existing? Now the reprogramming can start. And so that's another reason that I find people don't always have the lasting changes, because a lot of times the new programming is trying to be put on top of programming that's still running because it wasn't removed thoroughly enough. And if that old programming is still running, the new programming is not going to take over it. It can try to go in, but it's not going to stick. So if any of those levels are mixed and any part of the old programming still exists, then it persists and it can't take hold. And so then you keep experiencing the same different issues that we're talking about.
There are, you know, in my in the work that I've done, there's a belief system that a lot of people have. I'm not going to use the word therapist because, I mean, all of us don't identify as therapists, right? But there's the belief system that trauma has to be relived before it can be transformed. And I don't believe I'm not a believer of that. I think there are ways around it. And I think that I understand that you also don't follow that school of thought that they absolutely have to remember everything and they have to relive it and go through all the trauma of it.
Nope. I
Yeah,
don't at all.
yeah.
I was I was doing a talk yesterday for the Tony Robbins Platinum Partners, and somebody brought that up. And so they're highly growth oriented people and doing all kinds of these different things. And this one guy brought it up and talked about how, distasteful you would go and they would do these things, go back to that child, whatever, and now you're giving them all of this, and or you're killing them off, or you're feeling all of this, and then there's all this suffering. And he said he and his wife just walked out of the thing. And I said, well, good for you. I said, because it's just unnecessary suffering.
Yeah.
So again, I keep bringing it back. I work with it. I compare my job more to a computer reprogrammer upgrader than anything else. I do compare this more often than not to a computer. So if it's a computer, then it has a database. It's got all of it. It's not just got your belief systems and, all of that stuff. It has all of the memories that you can't even recall. So the stuff that you recall, like if I were to have you relive a trauma, it's going to be highly tainted anyways by perceptions, by time. Actually, every single time you access a memory, it's being altered. Every single time. So actually reliving it is not beneficial. So this database, this supercomputer that we have, has everything we need. So I don't need the person to relive it to remove the associations. And I know that because of the results. So, I mean, I can have people that have had multiple horrific traumas, stuff that when I was a counselor, working in the field of psychology, it was really depressing because I would hear it day in and day out. But the depressing part was that's all I would hear was day in and day out, and like, where's the positive change? But now, I'll do an interview and I'll get some information, but I just get the basics, okay, there was this kind of abuse at this age and this and this. And so I got the basics, and now I tell the subconscious to go after it. And so they sit there and they're relaxed and they may see pretty colors or whatever. And I'm telling the subconscious to go after all of these traumas, anything else that reinforced it, keeping them tied to it. And they're not thinking about any of it. If they are, then I tell them, no, please don't go back into pretty land and see the colors. And that's what it is. So they're not even tapping into it at all. When I do ask them to tap into it is about halfway through the session. I say, okay, now think about any of it. And that's a test for me to see if we need to do any more work. Because, I'll say on a scale of 1 to 10, when we start, when you think about this thing that happened to you, how do you feel? And they're like, a 12 out of 10. And I'm like, okay. And so then about halfway through, I'm like, now think about it. Think about any aspect that you want and tell me how you feel. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, it's a 3. And I'm like, all right, well, let's do a little bit more. And then I'll check in again. When we get to the neutral, then we're good. And sometimes I'll leave it at about a 1 because, I mean, that's pretty close to neutral as well. But no, I absolutely do not find it. It really bothers me when people do that. I find that it's unnecessary suffering. People experienced it once. There's no need to experience it again. And like I said, I'll just come back to close to 9,000 sessions. I don't have my clients reliving these things, and they absolutely have shifts that they tell me no other modality that they have ever tried in their entire existence. I mean, sometimes I meet people when they're like, in their 70s or older and have just suffered from the trauma impacting them this entire time. And they come and do a few, like 3 sessions with me, and they've just completely transformed because it's just gone. It's no longer attaching to them anymore. And so it just flows back into the past. It's not like the memories disappear, but because, I mean, it's like how many things do we actually remember in the past if they don't really have an impact on us? We're not sitting there recalling them. The ones that we're remembering are the ones we're still tied to. The other ones fall back in the past, and most of them we forget. And so that's how it happens.
I and so going through the process with you last night, we discussed this afterwards, that um, the me that is me is trying to keep up with what you're doing. Um, and I found that it just kept scrolling past, scrolling past. And if I tried to remember so that I could give you an example, you got to give a person feedback. And so I kept trying to remember an example so I could give you feedback, and it would just kept going past. And I went, screw it, let's just relax. you know,
Yes, I mean, yeah, I always say anybody who's doing these podcasts or talks, and even my assistant who usually is joining, I'm just like, well, just relax and do the process because that's the fun part.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, just get involved with it. It's fun. It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be traumatizing. Yeah, there's enough of that going around.
But you talk a lot about the subconscious, and my reference is Dolores Cannon, because I learned her QHHT process,
Mhm.
and working with my hypnosis clients in the QHHT process, she has us talk to the subconscious. But in during that process, I found that when I asked to speak with the subconscious, and you know, um, I would ask the list of questions that the client came with, right? What about this? What about this? And in the first 2 or 3 years that I did that, it was a struggle because I don't know if I was doing anything wrong, but I felt like I was doing something wrong because the subconscious that always, not always, I would say 70% of the time, the subconscious that showed up was surly, and maybe they wanted to answer and maybe they didn't want to answer, and I would have to negotiate with them on behalf of the client, and I'm like, this is crazy, I'm not doing this anymore. And of course it's the client, the answers are coming from their mouth, it's not me
Mhm.
intuiting anything. And so at one point I said, you know, I can't do this. And so I finally asked, who am I talking to? And they said, the client said, well, you asked to speak with the subconscious. Oh, you know, and I said, okay, what's above you? What are the levels? Right. And so it was so funny. It was one of those, let me talk to your supervisor kind of things. And so at the time, I'm sure it's changed now because consciousness has shifted, gone up a notch or two. But at the time, the answer was subconscious, higher self. And I'm like, well, what's above higher self? And they said, source. And I said, okay, let me talk to her source. Let me talk to the source, right? And the level of answers that I got was completely different. Her voice even changed because I work primarily with women. So her voice even changed. You know, her voice got more calm, more
Mhm.
focused, more authoritative, even,
Mhm.
you know? So I know that sometimes the subconscious holds all of this information and it's sort of driving the bus, right? But, and I don't even know why I brought that up. But anyway,
Well, I
um,
did a session recently, on my journey here with reconnecting with Soul Essence with Dolores Cannon's kind of right-hand person. I think you and I discussed that
yeah,
when we were
yeah,
chatting one time, and she created a kind of a newer version of that. And I wanted to see if that would, kind of help me tap into, what I was looking at identifying with my soul essence. And so it did actually, I mean, it's very different. I mean, the technique, first off, I mean, I work with the subconscious and the higher self quite a bit, on a daily basis. I've never had surly. I've never had ill, and so but also I find it to be more effective for change purposes, just giving it the directions with the person's approval and what they want. I think sometimes I do ask questions for the to answer, or the heart. Sometimes I go after the heart awareness. Sometimes as a subconscious curator and higher self, and I'm asking for some awareness the person needs in order to shift something. But that's only after we've done all the deprogramming stuff. I don't
right.
go after that first. But I've never had the experience. I mean, in the process we're doing today, I've never had people's subconsciouses be anything but really supportive of them. But that said, in that type of scenario, when I did that, it was a really cool experience because I for the first time I'd experienced various levels of soul at this point, but that was the first time that I think I really sunk into. I really became like, an actual like frequency based massive like soul essence, and I could feel that. And I could feel all of these like strings like hanging off different, going into these different existences. And one of them is me right now. And here's another one over here. And I could glimpse it all. And it was the first time. And so I think it's valuable for some things. What I found was that, we do regressions sometimes if needed, we can do regressions. And so my mentor would have, easily been able to do the same technique. It's not anything removed from what we're already doing. I thought it was going to be a lot more specialized, but it was very cool because, I had this experience that I had with her was very, very impactful. And it gave me an awareness that I hadn't previously had coming in. And it really shifted a lot of things to come from that. And there was a very transformative experience. So yeah, I think when used appropriately in a way like that, where I was specifically looking for not removing or reprogramming or any of that. I was looking to actually experience myself at a different level. And so, and there I think is it's very beneficial. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it depends on the on the circumstances, right?
Hmm.
And it was so funny because the one that stands out for me most was someone who had she had had her um, oh shoots. Anyway, she had had cervical cancer and she had had, certain things removed. And so she could, her legs would swell and she wanted to travel. She wanted to travel international and she couldn't,
Hmm.
because her legs would swell sitting on the plane so long. Her limbs, she had her limbs removed. And
Mm.
so I was at, one of her questions was, will I be able to travel? The answer was yes, right? And so she wanted help with with the draining, draining all this fluid off her legs. And so one of her questions was, um, will I always have this problem with my legs swelling? Is there anything that you can do to help this? Right. And
Hmm.
this is the point where the subconscious said, we could. I mean, that was out of her mouth, right? We could. And I was like, okay. And I said, well, is there anything that you can do for her right now as she, while you've got her attention? And the answer was, yeah. I mean, out of her mouth, yeah. And I
Yeah.
said, well, how long will this take? Just the typical Dolores questions. How long
Hmm.
will this take? Can I go ahead and ask questions while you're working? Da 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 da. And
Hmm.
the answer was, it could take up to 3 weeks. And I'm like, okay. So anyway, those were the kind of answers that I was getting. And
Hmm.
I know that there is also the aspect of ego,
Hmm.
the person's ego getting in
Yeah.
the way of the answers. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's just a little background. Yeah.
that's a thing with that type of thing if they're not really used to it, and how do you actually answer from that level versus, and so, but again, I find that this tool, whether we call it subconscious, whatever it is, this gateway, it works a lot better if, yes, there's times when there's really important awarenesses to get, but other way, it works really well if you give it very specific instructions, like getting in the driver's seat and actually saying, okay, now I'd like you to do this and this and this. So like for medical issues, and personally, I mean, that's why I call it, the ultimate biohack. It controls the body, it controls the mind, it controls, and it's the gateway to everything else. I was able to take myself off all daily medications with it. I took two kinds of acid reflux medication every day. I had migraines and hospitalized all the time. Medication for that every day. Spasms that I'd pass out from. I had all these different things, and by reprogramming, but I didn't. We didn't just say, "Okay, go make this not happen anymore," or "Can you just fix it?" It's like, okay, now go and take the original blueprint of perfect health in this human, and I want you to reset the body systems that are being affected in this way, or if there's some kind of injury or something, taking a previous injury that you've had maybe that wasn't so bad, and how you healed this, and now doing the same thing but doing it with this level in the ways that you can, and giving it very specific instructions, and then on top of that, adding in, after you've done those specific instructions, and then adding in the person's own imagination, as a continual reprogramming tool. Because, as I said, like it's like a computer, but it doesn't have a keyboard. And so the keyboard I consider to be the imagination. Imagination is the programming language of the subconscious. So what we imagine, it knows how to do it. And so, I had this client who got hit by a car crossing the street. And I think I shared this story with you. Hit by a car crossing the street, and he'd been a previous client of mine. So he called me up first for the trauma, because, he got hit by a car crossing the street. And then also for accelerated healing, because now he had screws all the way down his leg. And, it was a pretty, all the way down from the top of his leg all the way down. And so I did a couple of sessions with him for the trauma and the accelerated healing and what I kind of just told you. And then we brought in the imagination component. And so he chose, I always thought they were dwarves, but I think I saw him recently and he said they were gnomes. And I'm like, garden gnomes, really? But anyway, so he had these gnomes in there repairing all the damage in his. I don't think maybe he understands the definition of gnomes. I don't. Anyways, he had gnomes in there, and the gnomes were repairing all the damage in his leg. And so I said, anytime you have a chance during the day, make sure that they're still working, because we'd already done the work with the subconscious. We already got it started, and that's how this stuff works really well. And then I said, if you get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, make sure they're still working. Just keep this up. And so then he calls me a couple weeks later and he's like, the strangest thing happened. The other night I got up to go to the bathroom and I told him to get back to work. And he said they threw up their hands and like, but we're done. We could use some magic, but we're done. And he's like, that was a really confusing response because they'd never done that before. He said, but I had an imaging test 2 days later. So he went to the doctor to get more x-rays and stuff to check the healing on his leg, and they couldn't find any evidence of the fractures at all. It was completely healed. The doctor was blown away. The staff like, well, we haven't seen anything heal that fast. But that was after those little guys in his imagination But that's just the subconscious. Subconscious produces the imagination. And we
Yeah.
using the imagination is the language that it understands. It's the, when you talk about language, that's the language the conscious and the subconscious understand together, so you can actually use it as a keyboard to direct it. And once we get in the driver's seat and we start to direct our computer, so to speak, then the results are astronomical. And this is where I really think regeneration comes in. I think we're a regenerative species. And so that we're also focused on that. So my mentor and I, and I'm also the guinea pig on that. And I mean, I've had massive results since I've started the regeneration thing. For example, just 8 months ago, when I first moved here, I had a really hard time even seeing in dim light during the day. I was holding it up and I had to like bring in super bright lights or small print. I had to like pull out my phone to use a magnifying glass. Within less than 8 months, I could read at night in the dark. I didn't need to like bring out a magnifying glass, and that's all just working with the subconscious. And again, we have the original blueprint. So right now we're focused on moving back, resetting it to the original blueprint of DNA of a healthy 26-year-old. And so, and constantly doing that. And I'm constantly every night as I'm falling asleep, when I'm waking up in the morning, and making sure that it's happening throughout the day. And so, yeah, anyways, that's a little tangent on health.
I think it's all fascinating what you're doing, which is why I invited you to talk with a different group tonight. Are you willing to, have we worn you out? Because you're in Ireland and it's like probably 2 a.m. there. Are you willing to take us through the
Yes.
process? Good, thank you.
Yes, yes. Well, before we do that, I just wanted to bring up a little bit about the soul thing and where I went with that after, what recently just so because I've really started to focus on really sinking us into the soul essence as our identity. I had this idea just a couple of months ago to maybe start doing retreats and power spots in the world, and to do these retreats where there's already huge amplifying potential. And so, me and Claude spent a Saturday afternoon and looking at some of these places, and before you know it, I prepared my first of what's going to be a whole series of retreat called the Remembering. And that's your terminology there. And it was funny because that came up right before I met you. But it's all designed for that and using
Mhm.
these powerful spots. So we're doing the first one in Carnac, France, which I've never been to. I thought I'd been to all of these really powerful and cool places. It has hundreds and hundreds of standing stones. It's older than the pyramids. I mean, like, I'm blown away. You can electrically like test the different stones at different times of the day and they change frequency. I mean, just mind blowing. So, yeah, I'm super excited about that and starting to do this and to really, because up till now I've been working, with all populations and keeping it kind of clinical approach, but now going after it in this way, and then just bringing in a stellar speaking, not speaking, but people that are working with the participants every day for a week. A 34th generation Shaolin monk in Zen philosophy, and going to do the energy and chi inside the stones. And we've got the guy who wrote the book on the stones, and he's a druid, and his 16 albums, he speaks the old Breton language and plays the old instruments, and he's written all these books, and he's going to be there giving people an experiential. And then we have another Celtic musician from the other branch of the Celts coming in from Ireland, and then of course we have Patricia here is going to be bringing her zone of genius to it. I mean, I'm just blown away by who we have, and that the whole goal of the entire retreat is remembering who we are at a soul level, and then kind of coming at it from all these different angles, because really that's what it's about. Come at it from, and that's what I've done personally as well. You come at it from different angles and it just starts to shift and shift and shift. And so I'm super excited to be doing that with you, Patricia. I think the timing was nothing short of, I mean, I live now in a synchronistic life. That's what happens when you start operating from your soul level, is you start operating everything and every person. You start to realize there's a reason. Maybe it's for them, maybe it's for me, but everything is synchronistic, which is really, really powerful. But I'm
Yeah,
super excited.
I'm so excited for it, and I'm so grateful that you included me in it. I can't
Oh,
wait to
yes.
receive, to
I
give, but
know.
also
I
to
can't
receive.
wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to share the link for it, if anybody wants to see it and take a look at it, we just got the landing page off actually just yesterday. So, yeah. But
Okay.
yes. I'd be happy to do that experience. So I'll just give a little preface to that introduction. So what I'm going to do today is just it's a short experience, about 20 minutes long. And what we're going to do is do kind of an introduction to the most powerful part of who you are, the subconscious. And also, like I said, the gateway in a tangible way that you can actually, excuse me, you can actually relate to. So we're going to create a place in your mind where you're aware of everything everything. All of your experiences, your belief systems, everything's all going to be in one place. And so you're going to have that as a kind of library, whether it looks like a library or not, that's going to be however it shows up. And then, you're going to actually meet your subconscious and we're going to teach you how to communicate with it and just start to get aware answers from the most powerful part of who you are. And so this is one of the most powerful things that I have, that I do with clients. It's also, by the way, the first session that I ever do with clients. So and for those of you, I think she put in a link in the chat. I just launched this week as well, my school community. And so I'll be providing a lot of this stuff and doing, more on this, but really being able to tap into and to communicate and be connected with the part of you that's responsible for 95% of your thoughts, feelings, actions, and responses instead of just it's running in the background. Now you can communicate with it and start to create a relationship with it. Usually one of the most powerful things anybody ever does. And it's not only that. I mean, I've done it for people, for like I had a person with a phobia of flying after this one session be on a plane in 2 days. And so it's even though it's short, it's incredibly powerful. Now we just talked about imagination, so it's important to let the imagination run with this and do your best. Oh, I don't like the word try, but do your best to stay somewhat present because this is about designing these things. And so if you were to do any future sessions with me or the group reprograms or anything, once you have all this set up, then you can just relax and you don't have to really be aware of anything. But this little setup is a bit imagination based, so just go with it. And again, if nothing shows up automatically for you, then go ahead and feel free to create it with your own imagination. It is your imagination. And when we're asking for any answers or insights from the subconscious, the best thing that you can do, what's the difference between a subconscious answer and a conscious answer? The best way to tell the difference is when we ask a question to your subconscious, go with the first thing that pops up. The first image, the first word, the first feeling, however that comes, and especially if you don't agree with it, just go with the first thing that pops up. If you're trying to choose the right answer or think about what the right answer is, now you're in the conscious. And again, that's that little 5%. And I like to compare that as putting a 3-year-old in front of the supercomputer of your life and saying, why don't you have a go at it? And so if you could have solved it with that part of it, you would have, right? So let the subconscious answer and just trust it. It takes a little bit of practice. So you feel free to redo this each time. It gets easier and easier. And then just kind of naturally let stuff pop up. And you're getting new awarenesses each time you do it. And then I'll do a little bit of, I'm not going to do the full, all of those levels and associations and, the genetics and epigenetics and everything that I do in a session, but we will do some belief removal and stuff around stress and anxiety and emotional overwhelm so that people can have a little bit of some positive results from that. So if everybody's good with that, then I would recommend getting yourselves comfortable. Not so that you're sitting up. Maybe you can lay down, you can recline, just be comfortable however you are for the remainder of this part. And, maybe turn off your phone, make sure no one's going to bother you, and just get really into that experience. And I'm just going to turn off my camera as well. Okay. All right. So everybody get yourself situated. That's perfect. All right. So just go ahead and take in a nice long deep breath in through your mouth and hold it for a moment. And on the exhale, let go of any surface tension as you close your eyes down. And just allow yourself to relax as you close your eyes. And imagine yourself floating along in the river of life. And this river is imbued with positive energy. And you're totally supported by that energy just flowing underneath and all around you now. You're just flowing along with the current, which is taking you deeper. Easily and naturally, you're being carried along by the river of life to a destination that takes you deeper within, where you get to enjoy the experience of peace and calm now. And a very interesting thing happens as you float along. Any distracting thoughts you may have just flow right out of your mind, right into the water, and they're carried away by the water. Any thoughts at all just fly right out of your mind and into the water where they're carried away so that you can just let go and be peaceful and calm now. And any tensions that you may have anywhere in your mind or body, they just flow right out of you too, right into that water, and they're carried away by the very same current that supports and sustains you. Those tensions or concerns are carried away by the power of the water and by the energy in the water as you just float along happily and peacefully now. And you may start to think of numbers now, starting with the number 10. You may even see the number 10 on a sign on the bank of the river as you float by. And as you float past it, that number's behind you, and you go deeper. And then you see the number 9 on a sign on the riverbank, and you float past it. And you go even deeper than before. And you actually double your mental and physical relaxation with every number that you pass by for now. Every number that you pass by and sound that you hear just takes you deeper within. And that's a nice feeling. And the more numbers you let go of for now, the more relaxed you become and the less you care about numbers. Till they're all just gone for now. And you don't even have to let them all go one by one. That just happens automatically. As you let go of the first few numbers, letting them go and going deeper with each one. Till you're deep in trance now. And you really are deeper than you think. Maybe deeper than you've been before, and that's just fine. Because it's wonderful to be this deep in trance, knowing that you can always go deeper if you want to, and you can certainly come all the way back when you're done and you're ready. But for now, you just relax all the way into this peaceful state now. Now, your subconscious mind records everything that you experience, including how you feel inside of everything you experience. And then it organizes the records of those events according to categories like when things happened, how important an event was, what kinds of emotions you felt during an event, and how strong they were, and so on. The average person experiences roughly 400,000 conscious moments a year. So if you multiply that by the number of years that you've been alive, well, let's just say that's a lot of moments you've already experienced. So now imagine all of those moments as snapshots, or little short videos, or movies, or even written out as pages organized into books, where all the events are related to each other in some way. Now imagine how big of a library it would take to hold and organize all of that. How many shelves of books or reels of film or both would it take to document all the moments of your life? Now, that library would have to include all the funny moments and the scary ones, the happy as well as the disappointing moments, and the ones where you felt angry or sad or frustrated or bored, as well as all the moments that you were daydreaming, and ones where you felt excited or hopeful, and all the times you felt loved or loving, and all the other feelings too. Then there's all the memories of when you did things and learned things, and all the things that mean something to you or about you for whatever reasons they do. Even the events of things that you experienced before you had words to speak or really understand what was going on. Those events are all in your library too, including all the months that you spent in the womb building your body cell by cell. It's all there in the Library Museum of the Subconscious. And there's a whole section that's just dedicated to all the things that you believe. It contains what you believe about life and yourself and everything else you believe about everything else. And many of those beliefs are just old and out of date, just like things in a museum, which is why I call that section the Museum of Old Beliefs. And some of the beliefs that are there aren't even really yours. They were just handed down to you through your family, or through old books or TV, or by people who were authority figures in your life while you were growing up. So now that you're starting to understand how much is there, imagine how big this place must be. And just imagine the intelligence that it must take to record everything and keep all the memories and beliefs organized and sorted properly so that you know what you believe and remember all the things you've learned to do so well. It's an amazing intelligence that does all of that. Especially when you realize that the very same intelligence that does all of that also governs and directs every function of your body that you don't have to think about, like your digestion, immune system, and nervous system, your heart rate, blood pressure, and metabolism, and all the other things your body does every moment of the day. The intelligence of your subconscious does all of those things for you. And the primary function of your subconscious inner mind is your survival. What it cares about the most is your safety, survival, and well-being. And today you're going to meet that intelligence. So to do that, we're going to go deeper in your mind and down to your library, maybe down some steps or stairs or whatever unique way you have to get to your library. And at the bottom will be the door to your library. So you're going to have to take yourself there because the way to get there is unique for each person. And every step down takes you deeper than before. So just take a moment to go down to the door of your library. Now, one thing for you to remember about that door is that it will only open for you. So go ahead, open the door, step inside. And as soon as you've stepped inside, take a little bit of time to look around and explore the space. People are often really surprised by how big it is. This is your library. Take some time to notice whatever you notice. Now, it might be a lot like a large library with lots of bookcases and shelves and so many books. Or it might be more like a museum with display cases and objects from your life. Or it could be a combination of both of those things. Or it might be something very, very different than either of those things and nothing like a library museum at all. There's really no right or wrong. Every library is different for each person, so just notice what yours is like today. Now, everything that you've ever experienced, and everything that you've learned, and all that you know and understand and believe, it's all here in your library of the subconscious. So just take some time right now And notice what your library looks like. Notice if there's an organizational system that you're aware of. There might be, there might not. All you're doing is noticing right now. It doesn't matter if it's not the way that you would have expected or liked it to look. All you're doing is noticing because the cool part is all this gets improved upon anyways. Notice how it feels to you there and what really stands out to you. Notice what seems most interesting or important to you about how your library looks or feels. And if there's anything else important to notice about your library, just take a moment to notice that now. You can always come back here whenever you like. All right, now there's one more thing we need to add to your library, and it may seem a bit strange because we don't know yet what we're doing here. What we need to add is a giant garbage bin on wheels, and it's wider than a person from side to side and front to back, and the top is at about the height of your solar plexus, and it's wide open. So just find or create that somewhere nearby. Take a moment to do that now. So now it's time to meet this amazing intelligence that I've been telling you about. The intelligence that runs all the systems of your body and who records all of your experiences and organizes your memories and beliefs so that you have access to all of those things. And you should also know that your subconscious curator has many possible ways that it may appear to you. It could show up as an older, wiser version of yourself, or more like a wise woman or man, or as a famous person like Albert Einstein or Nikolai Tesla to represent intelligence, or Carl Jung who understood the unconscious mind so well. It could even show up as an angel or guide, or be more fanciful like a wizard, magician, or fantastical creature, animal, or something else entirely. Really, your subconscious curator can show up to you as anything which you might relate to. And it may be different each time you work with it, or different depending on what you're working on or what kind of assistance that you're asking for that day. So when you're ready, go ahead and ask your subconscious curator to meet you there in the library now. Ask it to arrive and trust that it will, and it does. So just take a moment to do that now. And just notice what comes when you ask. And notice what your curator looks like today. Is there anything else important to notice about your curator or their demeanor? Are they really wise? Just take a moment to notice. Great. Now thank your curator for being there. And when you remember how much that the curator does for you every day, you might even just want to thank it for doing all of that for you. So just take a moment to do that now. So now your subconscious curator is going to share some important insights or wisdom with you about any issues you might have with stress and anxiety and emotional overwhelm in your life. It could be something you need to realize or understand. Maybe something you could start doing on your own to make things better. Or something else that your curator wants you to realize about that issue. So just let your curator communicate with you in whatever way that it does or whatever way feels best, whether that's through images, words, feelings, or however that happens. Trust whatever you hear, see, or feel, and let yourself receive it with an open mind and heart now. Just go with the first thing that pops up, whatever it might be. When you receive something, what does that mean to you? What's important about receiving that right now? Thank your curator for that awareness. What else does your curator want you to realize or be aware of about that issue? What's important about receiving that awareness right now? What does it mean to you? Thank your curator for that awareness. Now, if there's anything else that your curator wants you to realize or be aware of, whether it's about that issue or anything else in general, just allow it to communicate that with you now while I'm quiet. And what does receiving that awareness mean to you? What's important about receiving that right now? Thank your curator for that awareness. So now, if your subconscious curator is willing to remove some of those beliefs that are causing or reinforcing any stress and anxiety and, and emotional overwhelm for you, then it's going to do that for you now. So, subconscious curator of your person, I ask you to remove whatever beliefs that are causing or reinforcing their unnecessary stress and anxiety and overwhelm, and any beliefs that are causing them to identify with that as being part of who they are, as well as any beliefs that mean or say anything like, I'm not safe, something bad is going to happen, I'm not in control, I can't handle this, I can't handle life, everything is too much, I have to be prepared for the worst, I have to stay on guard, I have to carry everything myself, I don't or can't trust myself, I won't be okay, I'm not okay, I'm an overwhelmed or anxious person. Subconscious curator, if your person has any of those beliefs or anything that are similar to them, I ask you to take all of those and the inner dialogue that created them and anything else that reinforces them, including all of the negative emotions, associations, and triggers connected to them, take all of those things out of their Akashic record and DNA and RNA and cellular memories, out of the very moment where those things began, and all the other moments where they ever got reinforced. Take them out of their subconscious and conscious mind and DNA and RNA and cellular memory, out of their Akashic record, and out of the very moments where they began and all the other moments where they got reinforced in any way. Take them out of all relevant memories from anywhere in time and take out all of the negative expectations, reactions, responses, behaviors, and coping mechanisms that are based on those things and put all of that into the garbage bin now. Thank you. So there's nothing for any of you to do. You just allow your curator to do its perfect work. You may see it happening, be aware of it, or just be allowing it to happen. Any of the above is fine. So just allow that to happen while I'm quiet. Subconscious curator, if we still need to remove anything else from your person, from their mind or body or any parts of their personality in order to get the best results for them today and to eliminate the cause and all the triggers for everything that we're transforming today, including anything that would try to justify any reasons for those things to still exist or to ever be recreated, then in that case, I ask you to remove all of those things from wherever they're located, anywhere in their mind or body or energy field. Take all of those things out of them as fully and completely as everything else you've removed and put all of that into the garbage bin now. Thank you. So once again, just allow that to happen while I'm quiet. All right, now look at everything that the curator put into that garbage bin. And as you're looking at that, repeat after me. This is where all that stuff belongs. In the garbage. The only power those things ever had was the power they used to get from me. Now I reclaim and use that power to get rid of that stuff once and for all, and to create the life I choose to live now. All right, so here's how we're going to do that. That garbage bin is sitting on a track that leads back to a big furnace that has a door with a window so you can see what's burning inside. So in a moment, you're going to give that garbage bin a big shove. You're going to send it to the furnace and watch it all burn in brilliant violet flame. So if you're ready to be done with all that negativity, then go ahead and send that garbage bin to the furnace. When it gets there, it goes in automatically, and you watch it all burn in that brilliant violet flame. And as everything burns, all of those negative thoughts and beliefs and negative expectations and energy and emotions are completely transformed and released by that flame. So all of those influences are completely gone from you. So just allow that to happen now. Now imagine stepping into a sort of shower, except this shower uses light and positive energy instead of water to completely dissolve any residue of all the things that your curator removed from you and the library. So just step inside that beam of light energy now, and it's shining down on you and inside you and all through your mind and body and library, totally dissolving any residue that may have been left inside. So just relax and let that happen now. Now another beam of light energy switches on and bathes you in frequencies of pure love and healing everywhere in your mind and body. And you can feel that love and healing working in every atom and cell of your mind and body now, just filling up all the spaces inside where those old ideas and feelings were kept before this session. Now those things are being replaced by these wonderful frequencies of love and healing everywhere in your mind and body. So just relax and let that happen now. Now I want you to imagine yourselves in the near future, starting to experience for yourself what it's like to be free of that old issue. And you may even feel like a new version of yourself, a more positive version of yourself than you were before, or even a new person. And that's what you came for, to start to change things for the better, and you've done that. So take a little time to imagine what that's like to live your life with more happiness and joy, just feeling better and better every day now, more peace and calm as your daily baseline. Imagine what that's like. Imagine how that affects everything in your life. Take some time to really enjoy this for yourself and make it as big and rich and close and colorful as you like. Really let yourself feel it as strongly as you can right now while I'm quiet. Now, if that was a positive future and it was more positive than the than what you've been experiencing lately, I want you to take a moment and connect to that future, connect your heart to that future, and notice how your future self is sending love and gratitude back to you, because they understand that the only reason that they're experiencing that future is because of what you're doing right now to make it happen. So take a moment to connect to that future and allow that future self, your transformed self, to connect back to you. Knowing all the while that according to quantum physics, the future that you select like this is yours. All you have to do to make it your reality is to choose it. And you've just done that. So if this is a much more positive version of you and your future than you've been experiencing, then I encourage you to every moment of every day, imagine as if you are this transformed version of yourself in every moment. How is that version of me handling the situation? What are they doing differently? How are they handling things and feeling and thinking right now? And imagine as if you already are them as much as possible. And if that was a more positive future that you just imagined, congratulations, because that means there already was a positive shift and clearing at the subconscious level to even allow you to imagine things differently. So I want you to thank your subconscious curator for giving you that experience today and for helping you take that step in the right direction. And you can tell your curator you'll be coming back to improve your life in all kinds of ways. It may respond to that, maybe not, but just take a moment to do that now. And that new future, if it was a positive one, it's also especially powerful if you imagine it right as you're falling asleep each night and before you even open your eyes in the morning, so that it's really reinforcing with your subconscious that this is the me now. All right. Now, before we end the session, I want you all to ask inside, do all parts of me agree with what we've done today? Yes or no? And just notice the first answer that pops up when you ask that inside. If it's a yes, that's great. If it's no, then subconscious curator of your person, I ask you to work, and the higher self of that person can come in as well if necessary, and ask you to work with any young resisting parts of that person, putting them into a bubble of safety and acceptance and love and compassion. And while those resisting parts and those younger parts are put into that bubble of safety and compassion and love, I ask you to grow them up through their lives all the way up to their current age today. And as you're doing that, I ask you to give them the full awareness that what we're doing today is only beneficial for them. Please take the time you need to grow those parts up now and to give them that positive awareness. Thank you. So just allow that to happen now while I'm quiet. Excellent. So now I'm going to count from 1 up to 5 and bring you all the way back to your full conscious awareness so you can enjoy the full benefit of everything that you did today. And you'll remember whatever's important for you to remember about the session, especially having met your curator and anything important that your curator shared with you or did for you. All right, here we go. 1, slowly, easily, and gently, you're coming up now. Coming up to number 2, feeling so much lighter now because of everything that you let go of today. You're free of those things now and from now on. Coming up to 3, now you're more present in your body, more centered and calm. Coming up to 4, more aware and alert, and getting ready to come up and all the way out of trance on the next number. Number 5, eyes open. Taking a deep breath. Stretch and smile. Welcome back. So go ahead and move around just a little bit and come back. Excellent.
Are you all still awake? Do you have any questions for Tina about that process?
Or anything in general. I'd be
Yeah, or
happy to answer.
anything in general? Yeah. So while you're considering that, um, Tina, you talked about your new program, the school, right? Putting
Mhm.
creating your own channel on school. But in last night's episode, you talked about the different programs that you're offering. So do you want to cover that for just a
Sure,
minute? Because
sure,
it's
sure.
not just courses that people can take. It's
Yeah, no,
you're
I don't,
offering, yeah.
yeah, I don't do courses, and I'll just bring it back around and something that I don't know if I focused on this. One thing I think it's important to know about me, and this is, I would say, differentiates me from a lot of people, is that I've devoted my life and my life's work and what I'm about to results, to getting the fastest and longest lasting results possible with people and studying every modality I can get my hands on that is consistently replicable with the widest range of people. So I can work with the spiritual, the non-spiritual, the aware, the unaware, and they're all getting these replicable results. And so the combination of things that I use does get the results. And so I do one-on-ones with people, but I also do group reprograms, I call them. I have reprograms for stress and anxiety and emotional empowerment, confidence and self-love to really get that unconditional self-acceptance and appreciation and love. Because really, I used to think I had self-love, unconditional self-love, but then I realized that I'm so focused on growth. I'm always so focused on growth that there's always another level. There's always something that can be improved upon, and I can always be improved upon. And so what I didn't realize is that I put myself in kind of a catch-22, that I wasn't accepting and appreciating who I was in the process of growing. And that was a game changer for me. And doing these sessions that I offer for other people and having them done to me changed all of that experience. Because now in every single situation, no matter how bad I F it up, that I'm still accepting and appreciating and loving myself in the moment as this imperfect human having this experience and learning and growing and always focused on improving, but I get to forgive myself instantly. And so that was a game changer. And that's a full 8 session reprogram. It's very powerful. Stress and anxiety, emotional empowerment is also 8 sessions. And these are the exact same ones that I would give to one-on-one clients. And the only difference is instead of being able to have the feedback, instead of giving the questionnaire, I do that in person. I give the questionnaire ahead of time so they write it down. They write their answers. So maybe we're targeting anxiety in a session, and I know all the most common things that people are dealing with, but they also get to put their own experiences and their traumas or their whatever and their limiting beliefs, and then I can direct their subconscious to go after whatever they thought about and wrote about. And it does. I mean, the results are astronomical. First time I ran the stress and anxiety and emotional empowerment, within the second session, it already saved one marriage. And, this guy who'd been depressed and negative for years and just couldn't leave the house. And, it literally saved their marriage. I mean, really powerful. I also have some 4 session ones, reprograms, focus, motivation, and drive, and then limitless wealth mindset reprogram to get rid of all those limiting ideas and beliefs around success and abundance and failure and all of that, and then to really get you aligned for your, kind of like a financial goal. So that's a really big one. And then, and those are the group reprograms. We do them live, but I also, when I do them recorded, when they're recorded after being live, I sell them for half price. I also have audio ones that are not as they're not, the video version, they're audio. And so they're a step down and cheaper in price, more inexpensive, more accessible, but they're very thorough. I wouldn't compare them into, guided meditation. These are actual reprogramming things as well. And there's stop smoking, there's confidence and self-love on that one. There's I'm trying to think of what else. I think there's anxiety on that. There's a number of them. They're all listed on School. And then there's a free version. You can come in and just join the community, share, and there's free materials. There's, self-hypnosis recordings, there's some other recordings, there's engaging things. There's even a really inexpensive one, just like for $44 a month, the membership, and you get one live, and there's all kinds of interactions. There's all kinds of materials that come with that. The whole mind tool set is included in that. And I also, because my mission is to have a global impact. So I have a kind of a sliding scale even on School, because I wanted to make it accessible for people that are in third world countries or just don't really have the resources. So there's more inexpensive ones, and then there's sponsor level ones so that people of all different levels, because yes, while I do work with the elite and pro athletes, and some people, pay me thousands and thousands, but my love work for what I do for everyone, it should be accessible to everyone. I really truly believe that evolutionary work and amplifying human potential, it should be accessible to everyone. So I've done my best to do that, and we just launched it this week. So a lot of these levels are just becoming uncovered, but the community is now open. And I would love to have you engage. Before I had it, on my own platforms, but I'd like to open it up so that people can, communicate with each other, interact with me as well. And yeah, I'm really excited about this. I think it's going to be great.
It sounds really good, because most of the you and I talked that I had tried that platform before, but I understood it just to be courses. And so I'm happy to hear that you've taken that and you've expanded it into other offerings. So
Yeah, and I
yeah.
would say like the reprograms, for example. It's each session is about 2 hours, but like the first 30, 40 minutes is is really going over, people's, positive differences or reframing things and helping people step into, wait a second, you're still bringing that issue into the present. Let's use the past tense vocabulary with that. And, just bringing in a perspective switching so that people can shift into the changes a lot faster. And so I do that with you as we're going through it. And then we actually do the subconscious work, all the reprogramming stuff. And like I said, we work with the higher self and universal intelligence and all of that. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love the concept of, I'm going to call them minions, right? Gnomes for one guy. But yeah, I love
There
that
were angels
concept.
for another one, little angels with golden needles. This woman that had a terrible car accident. One eye was out of the socket and they sent her home to die. They actually sent her home. There's like nothing we could do. You may as well just be at home and die. And so, she sought out the person that she could find. She imagined little tiny angels with golden needles in there, just like sewing everything back into place. Her vision came back, the eye went back in the socket. I mean, just yeah. So that imagination stuff is powerful.
Yeah,
Powerful.
we're incredible beings if we just let ourselves be that, right?
But it comes down to belief because if you don't have the belief, then that's really where manifestation, I think, for most people, you run into issues with it because people try to manifest and do things that their current level of programming or belief system is in contradiction to. And if everything is not aligned, then you can't just magically have things appear for you. Manifestation is a real thing. You've manifested everything in your life. You're powerful. We're all powerful manifestors. Everything in your life is an example of your level of manifestation, but it's also an example of your current level of programming, which directly relates to frequency. So
Yeah.
you upgrade the programming, you make it a lot more positive, you upgrade the frequency. Now you're able to step into imagining, healing, regeneration, manifestation, and it all goes in line.
Mm. Wow. Well, thank you for coming back.
Yes, you
We're
are
going to do
welcome. I
this.
know.
We're going to do this again next week. Just kidding.
Okay. Well, I love it. For me, it's all about awareness and getting people, and I'll just say this before we go. I want to thank everybody for it, for, participating and listening even after the fact. And, maybe some of you had an experience like this before, maybe not. Maybe you connected to your subconscious in a way you haven't, or, maybe some of you became aware of patterns that you didn't even realize were there. But regardless of what your experience was today, I hope you can see one thing. The subconscious is not theoretical. It is influencing every single day, whether you're aware of it or not. So if there's one thing I hope you take away from today is that you're not stuck because you're broken, you're not stuck because you're lazy or incapable. More often, you're simply operating from programming that can and should be upgraded. And that's exciting because if programming created the problem or in the pattern, reprogramming can change the pattern. So it's a very, very exciting thing. So if today's kind of, podcast and in this talk resonated with you at all, and, join the school community. She also posted some of my website links for the direct links for the group reprograms. The pricing on there is probably for the live. Like I said, they're half price after the fact, so contact me. Or if you feel like that you would like to do a little bit of a one-on-one, a subconscious audit with me to see if you want to work one-on-one or which kind of group reprogram would be good for you. For this group, I'm going to offer, I'll just put, I'll grab the, I'll grab the link for that and then I will, well, here, we'll show I've got screen, I'll share the screen really quick. And that way, if anybody wants to set that up, this is the link. And if you want to just grab that link there and Patricia, you can share that in the chat, the tina-nomad.com / subconscious dash audit. But if you scan that code and anybody watching after the fact, and I'll take you to my calendar and give you a complimentary subconscious audit and go over, what's maybe sticking and find out, maybe it would be a good idea to work together or what I might recommend going forward and just get some awareness around it. So, that's open for anybody who wants to. I hope you got that. I'll just stop that share there. But yes, so perfect. I really appreciate you bringing me on again, Patricia, as always. I mean, this has been a lot of fun, and I'm trying to see if there was any last thing here that I've got. Yeah, if anybody wanted to share, they're welcome to. But whether we work together or not, of course, that's, if we talk together, I'd love to see you in the community. I'd love to hear about any awarenesses. And hopefully, this talk today brought a little bit of awareness for you and at least started to get you thinking about how and why you're maybe thinking and acting and feeling like you are. And that, okay, you probably tried a lot of things to shift it, but there is actually something tangible that can happen and that has pretty much replicable results. So it's my pleasure to share that with people because I just want to give that awareness and hope to people.
Yeah, and I'd love to see some, all, or most of you at the retreat in France. It'll be my first time going to France.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that. Oh,
yeah,
cool.
yeah, I've been a lot of places, but never France. And you have, I mean, the retreat's not until October.
Yep.
So you have
October
time.
11, October 11, if you want to share the retreat link in there. I can't see it, but put
I
it in the
did.
in. Oh,
Yeah, I
cool.
did. Hmm.
So yeah, it's October 11 and it's in Breton. This is the old Celtic area of France and hundreds of standing stones. Literally like 2 to 3 minutes walk from our door, the villa. Literally
Yeah.
2 to 3 minutes walk. We are in it and we're experiencing it, and it's all about remembering and waking up to who we are as the soul. I'll be bringing my talents every single day, what I do. Patricia will be bringing hers on a daily basis. This 34th generation Shaolin monk bringing us all of his genius and Zen philosophy, and then we've got this druid and author and musicians. We've got it all. It's going to be very, very unique. I am extremely excited. I've never done anything like this before, so I'd love to have people on this. What did you call it? The maiden voyage, or I don't, something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
And this is just the first in a series. And so I can't wait to see where you go next.
I know, me either.
So
It's going to be Peru, by the way. I already chose.
Peru, okay, all
Yeah,
right.
Peru's the
What
next one.
Thank you again, Tina, for being so generous. And thank you everybody for joining us. And Tina, thanks for staying up with us. And also, we've got a couple of people on here from Australia, New Zealand.
Cool.
Um, I don't know where else. I know
Right.
those two people. Two of my travel sisters are here. So,
Nice. I love both Australia and New Zealand. I will say people always ask me. I've been to probably, I don't know if I mentioned this. I'm a nomad. I've lived in 10 countries. I've 11 states. I've been to 65 plus countries. And but yeah, no, I love Australia, but New Zealand is one of my favorites. So when people say, "What are your favorites?" I'm like, for natural environment, yeah, New Zealand is just New Zealand and Mongolia are pretty up there for natural. So yeah, and I love it. Oh, and the scuba diving in Australia. Ah, I loved it. Yeah.
yeah, Mongolia is on my list.
You have to go. It's
Tibet
land
is
without
on my
borders.
list. Yeah,
Yes, I
yeah.
think Tibet's amazing as well. Yeah. Yeah.
So, thank you everybody for joining me and Tina today on Earth Woman Gathering podcast. I'm absolutely sure that something that was shared with you today brought you understanding and awareness and expanded consciousness. So, if you want to know more about Tina and what she's doing, and if you want to work with her, I highly recommend it. Her links are there in the chat, of course. And when I post it on YouTube, I will post the chats to Tina. I mean, I'll post the links on
Okay.
YouTube. Yeah. And
Cool.
if you want to know more about me and what I do, it's not hard. If you Google Patricia Dancing Elk Walls, you will find me everywhere. I can't hide. And Earth Woman, and also Unlocking the Mysteries of Light Language and Hall of Records Official. You can connect with me through all kinds of different ways in social media. So please come back next week. Next Wednesday, we're going to have Shanna Tippett and and then we have lots of other people that are going to be on here, but please check the website earthwoman.com for the podcast and come back often and bring friends and refer people to Tina. I love you all. I'll see you next time. Good night, Tina.
Good night. Thank you.